Comes down to choice. If you don't want to be fully vaccinated, that's your choice. You just won't be able to participate in things.
I've said from the outset, I don't care about your life and the life of those around you. I don't really give a shit.
Hello all, I'm just making a video based around just letting people know what's happening here in New South Wales. It's getting pretty crazy here in Australia. A lot of people walking around don't seem to care, but I think there's a lot of people internationally that can kind of have an idea about what's going on and can see how, or frankly, terrifying it's actually getting. We went pretty quickly from apparently a free country to suddenly something a lot closer to China than a democratic Western nation. Now, just to give you an idea of the messaging that's been coming across, I've got a couple of videos here from my YouTube channel, and please do subscribe if you want to get regular updates. I'm posting some of the more concerning excerpts from the press conference every day, and I'll be releasing videos just breaking down what's going on as often as I can. The first thing I want to look at is a little bit of a change of tune as far as the vaccines go. For those of us that have been paying attention, especially on the global news and the global response to this pandemic, we've had an idea this is coming. Fully vaccinated people have assumed is the double dose, is 2 doses of the vaccine. That's temporary. That's what we consider now to be fully vaccinated. That'll change. We've seen that change in Israel. Having 2 doses of the vaccine doesn't make you fully vaccinated. And lately what we've seen here in New South Wales, especially in Australia, but especially in New South Wales, is we're starting to go down that route ourselves. So here's a few videos just showing how their messaging around booster shots has kind of changed. So here's the first video. Take note as to, if you were to compare this to how they were talking even just a week or two ago, this wasn't something that was coming up, certainly not in the press conferences. People that were paying attention to things internationally were talking about this, but this is how our Chief Health Officer is now talking about it.
I know we're focused on double vaccination, but we're now watching countries like Israel see their cases surge despite high vaccination rates. How important are boosters to maintaining this no lockdown plan, and how soon we need to get them so that we can maintain these freedoms we're being promised?
We need to get used to being vaccinated with COVID vaccines for the future. I can't see that COVID is not going to be with us forever. Maybe in the future we can have even better vaccines and coverage across the world to achieve that. I mean, as a public health doctor, we always want to have diseases get totally eliminated, but that's not on the horizon in the near future. So booster doses, repeat doses will be part of it. You know, there'll be different advice about different schedules, which doses you get. But at the moment, our priority has to be getting first and second doses into people, and there will be recommendations about booster doses in the future. And I can assure you that the Commonwealth Government has purchased large quantities of vaccine into 2022, and this will be a regular cycle of vaccination and revaccination as we learn more about when immunity wanes.
Dr. Chan, you've been...
Okay, so vaccines forever now is the message. We will be having regular boosters, and this is their messaging. Gladys has been up there and been talking about living with Delta. We'll essentially live with this like it's the flu at some point. That's been the messaging. It's been talking about getting everybody vaxxed at least 80% of people vax, and then we can go back to normal life. That's what we've been told. That's not the reality of how they plan to deal with this. Clearly, if you actually take note of their language and how it's changed and developed over time, you can see that's not the plan. Now, listen to how she consider that she talked about living with Delta like we live with the flu, and listen to what she says will continue to go on whilst we live with Delta. And ask yourself, is this what we do for the flu? Do we have QR codes for the flu? Do we have social distancing for the flu? Are there mandated vaccines? Mandated, aside from a few select industries or select workforces. Is that something that goes on with the flu shots? Take a
The
listen.
only thing is that if we'll get to a point that where we'll need a third booster shot or something like that, that it will wear off. So at the moment it's great that we've got these targets, but are you concerned about what it's going to look like
No, I've
later
already asked the questions without breaching confidence in National Cabinet. The federal government has ample supply of the booster shots, but we have to treat this like we can't yet, and I don't want people to think I'm being flippant. But once you get to living with Delta, we will be treating this like you treat. It's a horrible disease. It's not like the flu. It's much more contagious and much more deadly. But every year we get a flu shot, or those most vulnerable do. We're going to have to do that every year. So once a year, we're all going to have to go and get our shot. But obviously, it'll be a normalised process. Most people will get it from their workplace or through GPs, much in the same way you get your flu shot. But obviously, it's a race for us now to vaccinate our adult population as quickly as possible, and the 12 to 15-year-olds, to give everybody protection, as much people as possible protection, once we live with Delta. But living with Delta means social distancing, QR codes, vaccine passports. It also means once a year getting a booster or a jab to vaccinate.
Is that our reality in living with the flu? I don't think it is. But let's move on to this now. Listen to, they are trying to obviously define what is considered acceptable and not acceptable as far as living with Delta. Remembering that when they talk about living with Delta, that's the future. The future is living with Delta. If Delta is here and it's endemic like the flu, where we're seeing it here every single year and we're living with it in our community, listen to how she describes living with Delta. Look at what she describes as being safe and how we can make that safe, and listen to what isn't safe.
On those restrictions today, so everything is on the table at 70%. Stadiums open, you said this morning on Sunrise, so stadiums will be open, home visits are on the table, cinemas are on the table.
Well, obviously, things like, as I said, high risk issues like home visits is what the greatest risk is. And what is key is for us to be able to demonstrate that people are vaccinated. So when you have a controlled environment, like a venue or an outdoor event that's ticketed, you can actually control that only vaccinated people come through. And that is the key. The 70% freedoms relate directly to full vaccination. And that is why it is key for us to be able to demonstrate that people are fully vaccinated when they're attending an event or attending a venue. And clearly, for all of us, indoor is more high risk than outdoor. But having said that, controlled, regulated environments are safer than uncontrolled environments like homes. So it would be far safer, for example, for a family to have a meal in a restaurant than it would be necessarily to have people come into their home that may or may not be vaccinated. So the key to freedoms is the full vaccination, is someone being fully vaccinated and being able to demonstrate that. And that is what we're basing our roadmap on, and that is what we'll obviously convey to the community as soon as we finalise those plans. And I'm hoping...
So the key to freedom now is being fully vaccinated. That's the key to freedom. Now, I know people will say, look, she's talking about 70% vaccination. Once we get 70% vaccination, that all goes away. The messaging has been changing. The messaging has been changing constantly. So for people to say, look, she's talking about a 70% vaccination rate. What's it going to be a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now? That's all changing. It's all changing. So, I'll give you an example. Listen to this video. She talks about life getting back to normal, but only for a certain segment of the population.
The key is, if you're fully vaccinated, you'll be able to do a lot more than what you can today. Life will be very different, and life will be starting to get back to normal. And at 80% double dose, we can look forward to international travel. We can look forward to all those things we've missed out on for nearly 2 years.
Can New South Wales residents?
So she's talking about other freedoms coming at 80%, right? And a lot of people are going to say, look, this is temporary. She's talking about 70% and 80%. Once we hit those targets, we'll be okay. Once we hit targets, it will be okay. And she says it again here. It's another short clip I'll play for you.
So don't be left behind when we start opening up, because when we open up at 70% double dose, it will be only for those who are vaccinated. So there's time now to get your first dose and then fit in your second dose before New South Wales starts opening up. And I just want to make that message as strong as possible.
Now, while people think that it's only at 70% and 80%, you have to listen to the language and how it's changing. This is the perfect example. All right? Now, this is a very frustrating watch for me. I'm sure it will be for you. The arrogance, and just listen to this. She talks about having a choice and about how it's all about choice. We can choose to be vaccinated or not. They aren't infringing on our freedoms. Listen to the arrogance.
Well, I don't think there is such a divide, and it also comes down to personal choice. If you're fully vaccinated and you have the opportunity to go and get a meal outside, you don't have to if that doesn't make you feel comfortable. It'll all be about choice. But the choices will only exist at 70% double dose for those who are fully vaccinated, and also at 80%. There'll always be things you can't do unless you're fully vaccinated, but it comes down to choice. If you don't want to be fully vaccinated, that's your choice. You just won't be able to participate in things.
You just won't be able to participate in things. Now, we'll get on to what those things are in a minute. But listen, this is where you have to listen to the language.
Outside, you don't have to if that doesn't make you feel comfortable. It'll all be about choice. But the choices will only exist at 70% double dose for those who are fully vaccinated. And also at 80%. There'll always be things...
Did you hear that? It was 70%. But also at 80%. And then there will always be things. And these aren't accidents, these aren't mistakes. This language has been developing and changing ever so slowly over time. It's conditioning. Listen again.
Exist at 70% double dose for those who are fully vaccinated.
At 70% double dose. But...
And also at 80%.
Also at 80%. And then
there will always
be things.
There'll always be things you can't do unless you're fully vaccinated. But it comes
always be things you can't do unless you're fully vaccinated. Always be things that you can't do unless you're fully vaccinated. Now there's two things there, and they're the things that a lot of people don't seem to care about and aren't considering, that are extremely important. Okay? It's, as I said before, I've got one more video. Listen how the definition of fully vaccinated is changing.
I know we're focused on double vaccination, but we're now watching countries like Israel see their cases surge despite high vaccination rates. How important are boosters to maintaining this no lockdown plan, and how soon will we need to get them so that we can maintain these freedoms we're being promised?
We need to get used to being vaccinated with COVID vaccines for the future. I can't see that COVID is not going to be with us forever. Maybe in the future we can have even better vaccines and coverage across the world to achieve that. I mean, as a public health doctor, we always want to have diseases get totally eliminated, but that's not on the horizon in the near future. So booster doses, repeat doses will be part of it. You know, there'll be different advice about different schedules, which doses you get. But at the moment, our priority has to be getting first and second doses into people, and there will be recommendations about booster doses in the future. And I can assure you that the Commonwealth Government has purchased large quantities of vaccine into 2022, and this will be a regular cycle of vaccination and revaccination as we learn more about when immunity wanes.
Dr. Chan, you've been...
So here's the issue, all right? Here's the issue. The issue is, A, it's gone from 70% to 80% to forever. So if we can assume that this will continue, A, what are the things that you need to be fully vaccinated to participate in? And B, how does the definition of fully vaccinated change over time? Now, probably the most disturbing thing is the list of things that you cannot, or that we can at least be fairly certain we cannot participate in unless being fully vaccinated. So far, it looks like pubs, clubs, restaurants, gyms, hairdressers, any sort of learning facility, places of worship. I think those are fairly obvious ones, which is insane to begin with. But as we heard before, home visits are considered more dangerous than all those things. So if we can already say that these things are most probably on the list of things that we can't do, we know that air travel isn't going to be something that the unvaccinated are going to be given the privilege to participate in. What about trains? Does that include trains, buses, public transport? Does it include getting an Uber or a taxi? What about retail? What about grocery stores? What about sending your kids to school if they're not vaccinated? What about sending your kids to school if you're not vaccinated? What about work? We're seeing a lot of places start to mandate vaccines for you to be able to work. How many jobs that you don't do from home are you going to be able to be employed in without being fully vaccinated? And that's ignoring the fact that I'm sure there will be plenty of businesses that have got people working from home that they expect to be fully vaccinated. The list keeps getting bigger. And now if you're not letting people in any of these establishments, if these are too high risk, if you don't even want to allow people to have house visits because they're risky, what about going to the beach? What about going to the park? Where does it end? Now, once you have something like this in place, then you've got the other part of the question, which is what does being fully vaccinated mean? Now, if you need a booster shot every year, or every 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, whatever it ends up being, well, you might be fully vaccinated today. And you might take your next booster shot. You might take the one after. You might take the one after that. You might take the one after that. But what if you don't get the one after that? What if at some point, for whatever reason, you've decided enough is enough? Then it's too late. I mean, once you sign up to a society like this, they're the rules. It's pretty scary. It seems that we're in the early stages of this living with Delta, and I can say at this point it's it's not looking crash hot. Look, I'd really appreciate if people were to subscribe, and obviously allows a little bit more exposure, allows more people to see these videos and just to see what's going on. The only chance we have for this new look society to not go ahead is for enough people to really understand what's going on, and for some sunlight to be shown on all this crap. So I'd appreciate any likes, any subscriptions. The main thing is if you can share these videos, let people know what's going on. If there's anything that you want me to cover, if there's anything that I've missed, feel free to send it to me, and I can get it up on the channel. I'll be back with another video. Like I said before, I want to be able to publish excerpts that I think are troubling from the press conference every single day. Make a video like this, just breaking it all down as often as I can, at least once or twice a week. So I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.